got done with a 12-hour shift installing, I think, about 15 optical plates, knocking off sites with the site pushing tool. You should just see my hands, man. I think I worked on 15 Glock 45s, 47s, and then the 19s. Oh my goodness. Life as a super part-time armor. Anyhow, hey, today I want to talk about, or with the remaining light that we have left, I want to talk about insurance policies. For those of you who are working private security, is your employer adequately insured? This is actually one of the most important videos, in my opinion, that I'm putting out this year, because it appears that there might be some employers that are not adequately insured. I had a subscriber reach out to me on Instagram. Guys, I'm on Instagram. My screen name or handle is The Firearms Trainer. I do respond rather quickly to my direct messages. Today, I think I responded to two or three. I can't call people on the telephone. It takes a lot of time. There's a high demand because I run my PPO, private patrol operator operations, as well. And time is money. With my trusted circle of colleagues, you guys know who you are. I have no problem exchanging my phone number. But what I want to say is it's really hard to get a hold of me. Instagram is a great way to connect with me. Somebody had some questions, and I was able to answer them rather quickly because it's a direct message. So once again, The Firearms Trainer. So somebody on Instagram asked me on the direct message. I forgot what they asked me already. It was an insurance question. So basically, this was an unarmed post. However, the private security officers on the contract, they were showing up armed, and this subscriber wanted to know, like, is this illegal? I can't think of it as being illegal. All I could think of is basically the organization that this private security officer represents is a government entity. And by knowingly allowing armed security on an unarmed contract, service that contract, if something were to happen that incurs liability, that government organization would be liable. I guess the argument on the plaintiff would be, had there not been armed security, then my plaintiff would have not been shot or hurt or severely injured. That'd be the argument. That topic of that discussion basically sparked today's video because I want to expand on insurance policies. Okay, guys, if you work for a security company and they're paying you under the table, in California and a whole lot of other states, that's not legal. Well, it's legal to get paid under the table. What I'm saying is they're probably not taking out payroll taxes, and you're not probably insured under a workers' compensation policy because the workers' compensation carrier, that insurance company, probably doesn't even know that you exist. Okay? The general rule is that independent contractors, you don't need to have insurance on them because they're not your employee. They're independent contractor. However, in almost all the states where a private security company license is required, that independent contractor would also need to have that security operator license. In many cases, they don't. So when it comes back to liability, let's just say if you trip and fall, you get injured, workers' compensation is not going to cover an independent contractor. You are not going to be covered. There's a lot of you that do that. In the 90s, I worked bar security, club security. I worked quinceañeras. Guys, it was under the table, and I agreed to get paid under the table. It's neat because you get cash. I mean, I got paid my $7 an hour. This is 1998. Was it 7 or 8? Or it may have been 5.48 or something like that. I forgot. But the bottom line is, if I got injured, I would not be covered under the insurance policy. Guys, once again, if you're getting paid under the table, There's no payroll taxes being taken out, and you're probably not covered under any workers' comp policy. Now, let's talk about liability insurance, okay? You got to watch out for the startups. I'm telling you, be very careful with the startups, okay? If you got a startup security company and you're working a marijuana dispensary, right? Chances are the insurance cost is going to be significant. I mean, you're not going to pay $4,000 a month. $4,000 a year for a marijuana grow. I think if you double that amount, that would probably be more consistent. Obviously, it depends on your payroll. But if something were to happen, let's just say some guy came in there with a gun, started shooting up the dispensary, right? And you got into a gunfight with that person, you ended that person's life, the family or the state is going to end up suing somebody, right? Guys, you're not going to be covered because your employer is not going to be covered. Your employer is going to say, hey, you know what? I have an insurance policy. Here you go. Well, that insurance policy covers the parking lots. It covers construction projects. Had we known that you were going to cover dispensaries, we would have charged you a lot more than $4,000 or $3,700 a month. We would be charging you $8,000. Your claim is denied. Okay? So there's a deep pockets theory. The plaintiff is going to research your assets as an individual security officer. Some of you might be saying, we don't get paid enough. Well, let me say this, that many of you in private security, you are given the estate of maybe your father, your mother, your grandmother. You may have been given a house, right? These attorneys will hire private investigators to do an asset search on you. If you're married, they'll do an asset search on your wife or your husband or your significant other. Okay, they do their due diligence before they even file that lawsuit, okay? Or before they pursue further with the lawsuit. So just don't say, hey, you know what, all of us are in security are broke. That's not the case. Or maybe you have a significant other that has a lot of money, has a great job. Or maybe you work 2 jobs. Okay, they're going to do an asset search on your bank account, and they're going to try their best to delete that in case this goes to trial. Okay, and you're going to be super pissed off because you're going to think, hey, shouldn't my employer covered me? Okay, now if you're in California and a bunch of other states, when you incur loss, when there's a loss incurred, the employer is supposed to cover your legal fees, right? Well, you might need to hire an attorney to make that assertion that your employer is supposed to cover you, and you need money for that. Okay, I'm telling you guys, they're going to try harder to go after you if they know that you have more assets than your employer. Okay, you need to do your due diligence. That might involve asking your employer for the insurance policy. Now, there is nothing on the insurance policy that is like private or confidential information. Your employer might say, I can't give that to you, it's confidential. Guys, when I had my contracts lined up, I told my guard force how much came in, how much revenue, how much money I got paid. I didn't have to do that. I did that to be transparent. I said, hey, look, I have this much overhead, and this is how much I'm going to pay you. And they took it, okay? They knew how much profit that I was going to get. You don't have to do that if you're an employer or your manager. But for me, it helped people feel confident working for me, okay? I don't think any employer should feel restricted to provide that information. And if there's any private information in there, get a big old black marker, black it out, and then run it through a copy machine 2 times. And that confidential information will disappear. But what should not be confidential is the type of loss that is covered and the amount. That's not confidential information, ladies and gentlemen who own or run a security company. That's not confidential. If your employers ask you for that information, you should provide that. Okay? The only reason, guys and gals listening to this, the only reason that an employer would say, no, you can't look at the policy, is because they feel like you're not privy to that, because you're not worth it as an employee. That's all I can think of. Or second, they're hiding something. So you tell them that Sean Sundell from YouTube suggests that they ask for the policy. And if anybody has any problems with providing their insurance policy to their employees, let's talk to me. Send me email, put in the comment section box below. I know that most won't do that because most are cowards. And they're scared of the truth. They're scared of what I'm going to tell them. There's nothing confidential in those documents. Don't you guys want to know if you're covered or not? Hospital. Okay, let's just say you're providing contract security to the hospital. Don't you want to know if you're covered as an employee, if you create liability? A hospital, it shouldn't be $3,700 a month. It should be a lot more. Executive protection. Don't you guys want to know if you're covered? If you create liability, is an attorney going to defend you? Okay, you work executive protection, that insurance policy should not be $4,000 a month. Depending on the type of executive, $10,000 a month is not unheard of. $100,000 a month is not unheard of. Obviously, depends on payroll and the type of risk. But imagine if you work executive protection and your security company is only insured, they're only licensed, maybe even bonded, depending on the state, to guard a warehouse in the middle of the night. Think about this. Think very deeply. Okay? Guys, incorporation, okay? LLCs and corporations, they're designed to protect the employer, not you as an individual employee. You can sue your employer all you want, but guess what? If the incorporation, INC, is right after the name of the company or LLC, you're not going to get more, okay, than what the assets are. Okay? You're not going to get more. Now, you can do something called piercing the corporate veil, which we discuss in fine detail in my 40-hour private patrol operator leadership and development course. Or you can just research what piercing the corporate veil means. That's another way to get to your employer. If your employer, in a nutshell, does not treat the company like a corporation or LLC, you can pierce that corporate veil. If they're using the business bank account as a personal account, they're buying gifts for their girlfriend, they're buying flowers for the boyfriend under that corporate account, they're buying cars for their kids. Yeah, that could be an interesting circumstance where the corporate veil may be pierced. Again, you want to know more about it, take my 40-hour private patrol operator leadership and development course. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions on this. I know a lot of people aren't interested in hearing about liability. They think that they're going to be covered. In the case of liability, guys, if you're working armed, you get into a shooting right now. Okay. Let me tell you how it might spin off. You're going to call your employer, tell them that you've been involved in a shooting incident, right? And they're supposed to call their insurance company. You should be represented on the criminal side, assuming that this is obviously not like a criminal offense, right? But on the criminal side, you should be represented because the criminal can lead to the civil liability. If you don't have insurance, if the security company you work for doesn't have insurance, when you get into a shooting, you think your employer is going to contact an attorney or contact their insurance carrier to call an attorney? You think that's going to happen? If they don't have the proper insurance, what's going to end up happening is they're going to say, hey, you know what? You don't even have insurance for these circumstances. Sorry, can't send an attorney. And now you got to face the criminal portion on your own. Now, obviously, guys, if this is a case where it's like straight out, clearly second degree murder, manslaughter, or something like that, I can easily see your employer saying, "Hey, I want nothing to do with this. This was beyond the scope of employment. I'm going to call the insurance carrier to activate legal because I'm going to get sued. Forget the guard that incur liability." Now, if this is a good shoot, that's when your employer calls the insurance carrier and they contact an attorney, and that attorney represents you on the criminal side. And what I mean by criminal side is this. Detectives say, "Hey, you know what? I like to interview this person." Cool. Not a problem. Let me get a hold of our insurance company. They contact the attorney. "Hey, the detectives want to interview one of our employees. Like, what do we do?" Yeah, go ahead and go through a voluntary interview. The voluntary interview will help clarify some of the ambiguity that is surrounding this case. Okay, and they do that all the time. So you come in for for a, for a voluntary interview, right? Now, obviously, you have to waive that Fourth Amendment right. Now, guys, let's not get into whether this is legal or not, whether you should talk or not. That's a topic of a whole new story. Okay. Let me go through the comments real quick. Westwell's here. Yeah, it is kind of normal for government sites to have armed security unless you're UCLA. Westwell says, full disclosure is a good policy. Thank you. And Westwell says, veal rhymes with male. Yeah, no, it does. It certainly does. Okay. Hey, guys, before we end the live stream, please pay attention to the videos. My last video that had a lot of views, there's a lot of comments with people answering whether private security should have the same equipment or purchase the same equipment that law enforcement has. I get a lot of people that answered yes. If you answered yes or no, you didn't watch the video. It's pretty frustrating knowing that, like, you don't have to watch the videos. You could just comment if you want. It helps the algorithm, but a lot of that content was pretty useful, I think. And in life in general, in the private security profession, you should listen to all the details before making comments. It's very sad to know that people are just answering questions without even watching the video. Okay, that's the last video I posted. All right, guys, I'm out. You guys take care. Be safe out there, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue. Take care.